Is this organic? All right.
Did you hear about the Fed?
No, what about the Fed?
They announced another round of the quantitative easing.
What does that mean?
It means they are going to make large asset purchases via POMO.
What does that mean?
It means they are going to expand their balance sheet and buy treasuries.
What does that mean?
It means they are going to print a ton of money.
So why do they call it the quantitative easing? Why don't they just call it the printing money?
Because the printing money is the last refuge of failed economic empires and banana republics, and the Fed doesn't want to admit this is their only idea.
So why do they want to print the money?
Because they say we have the deflation, and the deflation is very bad.
What is the deflation?
The deflation is when prices of the things we buy go down.
Isn't it good? Doesn't it mean the people can buy more of the stuff?
Yes, but the Fed said this is bad, especially during the recession.
So they think that during the recession, when the people have less money to buy the stuff, it is bad that the prices go down?
Yes, the Fed would rather have the inflation.
So why does the Fed think we have the deflation?
Because the CPI said so.
But aren't the food prices higher than a year ago?
Yes.
Aren't the gas prices higher than a year ago?
Yes.
Aren't the healthcare costs higher than a year ago?
Yes.
Aren't tuition prices higher than a year ago?
Yes.
Aren't the taxes higher than a year ago?
Yes.
Aren't the subway fares higher than a year ago?
Yes.
Aren't the stock prices higher than a year ago?
Yes.
Aren't the bond prices higher than a year ago?
Yes.
So what is deflating right now?
The only thing deflating that I can see is the Fed's credibility.
Did they have a lot of credibility to start with?
No.
Why not?
Because the Fed has been wrong about every major economic development in the past 20 years.
You mean they didn't see the internet stock bubble?
No. In fact, they helped fuel the internet stock bubble.
And they didn't see the housing bubble?
No, in fact, they helped cause the housing bubble.
And they didn't see the subprime crisis?
No, in fact, they told us subprime problems were contained right before the shit hit the fan.
Has the Fed ever been right about anything?
Let me see if I can think of anything. No, nothing.
World. I mean, I knew our leaders were screwed up, but not this screwed up. The crash is bigger than I thought. So in March of 2020 was the biggest crash in world history of the stock market, but nobody knows anything about it because everybody's quarantined at home thinking about coronavirus and social distancing and wearing face masks. People are missing out on one of the biggest catastrophic cash heists in the history of the world. They don't even know what's happening. Now, the good news is this is the best time if you're ready for it. I'm going to make a fortune. So I want you guys who are sitting at home, licking your wounds and wondering when you're going to go back to work and so you can get your lattes and cappuccinos and pizzas. Just know you might be missing one of the biggest opportunities in the history of the world because our governments have really screwed up. Something's fishy about this corona crisis. There's something very fishy. Why did they have to shut down the whole damn world? And I think it's because they're covering up something very, very big. Now, if you're feeling bad, this is your program. If you're worried about what's going to happen to moi, this is your program.
Right.
So the world's printing money, but that's going to flow to the U.S. is what you're saying.
Exactly. But my point is that whether you like it or not, the biggest demand for currency out there is the demand for the dollar. And despite the fact that they're printing a lot of it, the demand for it dwarfs the supply.
So your thing is the dollar's going to get stronger. It's going to lift the U.S. economy and all our tangible assets here. But what is the demise? When's it break?
I think the monetary system is just not designed for the dollar to get stronger. And as it does so, it's going to just wreck the global economy. I mean, I think the rest of the world is going to just go through really, 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 difficult time. And ultimately, that's not good for the U.S. either. So as the dollar continues to get stronger, despite the Fed's efforts to, bring it lower, I think eventually the world will have to come together in another Bretton Woods type conference or another Plaza Accord type conference. And I think they'll have to either write debts down or introduce a new currency or reset the system in some form or another.
So with the coronavirus, because we don't know what is coming with that, how do you see, in your world, what impact does that have in the future?
They're going to print all these dollars and all this currency. And so when the COVID does leave and money is start to flow again, now you've got a lot more money out there and now it's flowing. So that's a recipe for inflation. But first you get the deflation. You print all the money, and then when the money starts to move, you get high levels of inflation because there's so much liquidity now. So I think we have deflation, for the next year, 18 months, and then we have inflation after that as capital starts to circulate again. I think the euro is probably going to go away, or it's not going to continue to exist in its current. Fiat currencies trade relative to each other. So even if you look at 10 fiat currencies and you realize they're all fiat, they're all horrible, one of them is going to outperform the other 9. And that's what I say with the dollar. Now, gold might outperform the dollar, but the dollar is going to outperform all the other 9, and you can make a lot of money playing the dollar versus all the other fiat. So if you don't want to put all of your, I understand owning gold, everybody should own gold. But if you don't want to put 100% of your money in gold, then put whatever you don't have in gold into the dollar or dollar assets, because the dollar is going to just crush, I think, all the other fiat currencies.
Well, people are terrified to ask, and I mean, people with their 401k statements, they don't want to open the statement. He's a great guy, Ted Sedel's a second author, so we cover both defined benefit and defined contribution. And when you read Who Stole My Pension, you'll understand why defined contribution, the pension for firefighters, teachers, and police officers, is going to bring down the 401k. Now, this is all good news for people like me who are gold and silver fanatics.
Because, I know so many people who are afraid to go to the ATM and close their eyes when they get the receipt to know how much money is in my bank. But, is that kind of the first step to take, is understand, how much you have in your pension, what you should be contributing. Don't be afraid of these numbers.
If you read Who Stole My Pension, it'll make your blood boil. It's because you read the back cover of the book. Ted is an SEC attorney, and he got sick and tired of the looting. So he has sued over $1 trillion worth of pension funds money. So that's why he's the biggest whistleblower around. How they steal it out of the Teamsters, firefighters, pilots. If I was going to be a pilot, thank God I didn't fly for United Airlines, because they stole their pension too. So when you read the book, you'll see it from an SEC attorney's side of how Wall Street and these union leaders, as well as a bunch of other culprits, are stealing the money straight out of people's pensions all over the world. That's why I said there's 2 billion people in the next 10 years, old guys like me, who are out of time, which means I think the Fed, they'll have to print more money, which is good for gold and silver.
But how do we stop that, Robert? How do you stop the bleeding?
Well, number one, it's the reason you read the book is because you understand how they're stealing it. Most people don't know how they're stealing it. Again, there's 2 authors, 2 types of pensions: defined benefit, defined contribution. They steal in different ways. But like, I was talking to a friend of mine, and it's very, I live in a fairly wealthy neighborhood. This guy's an attorney, and he's all excited about the stock market. He says, oh, the stock market is up. I'm in love with Trump and all this. And I said, you idiot, can't you see it's the bond market that's going to bring it down? What? And the average guy is watching the stock market, but not watching the looting going out the credit market, the corporate credit market. So all that's covered in Who Stole My Pension. So if you become aware of how they're stealing your money, then you can say, well, maybe I should do something different. For example, let me ask all your listeners right now, if you found out you were retiring in 2 years and you found out you had no pension money, what would you do? That's the question. That's the question everybody in that book asks people to take a look at. And it's for young people too, because it's a real estate play. You don't want grandma moving in with you or your kids moving in with grandma. It's going to be an interesting time.
And as you mentioned, people are living, longer, which is fantastic. But I speak to a lot of people who say, well, I have $30,000 to $60,000 saved in my pension, but you're saying that's nowhere near enough.